Within the Barbadian context, empowerment isn't just a buzzword, it's the practical and actionable steps being taken by young leaders across the island. In this special episode, we have a conversation with Minister within Prime Minister's office with responsibility for youth and culture, Senator Shane Archer. We see how he's seeking to transform and revolutionize the ministry. This is One on One. I'm Ishran Robinson. Good evening and welcome to the set of One on One. We're having a conversation with the new minister within Prime Minister's office with responsibility for youth and culture, Mr. Shane Archer. Shane, welcome to One on One.
Hey, nice to be here.
You're most welcome. The first question that I want to ask, Shane, you're coming from a background of being a show promoter, a businessman, an entrepreneur, wearing many hats, but now you've chosen to dedicate time to Barbadians in terms of serving for public life. Why was this important for you?
Well, it's important in our journey as a republic. We're still a new republic. So, in terms of us, and when I say us, and speaking of Barbadians, shaping our future and the path of where we want to see Barbados. We're 60 this year, where we want to see Barbados in the next 40 to 50 and 60 years and beyond. So, I think it's important to have the voices of our young people in this at this very important time as we see what's happening throughout the world with wars and so on. So I think it's important for not only for myself, it's good as a journey in a career, but also for Barbadians to hear a youth perspective while also incorporating history and tradition, which matters, but but utilizing history and tradition in a modern Barbados and in a modern way.
Your father, Glenn Clark, currently ambassador, but also a former MP.
Yeah.
How would his impact guided you toward this particular venture?
Well, from a very young age, I spent a lot of time with my dad. From a very young age, I was with him, walking the constituency, working in the ministry. When he was at Public Works, in Ministry of Public Works in particular, going to his office on evenings, and really and truly seeing the empathy that he has, it would be his largest influence on me. Being able to see thousands of people, but still remembering them, still remembering their stories, and still trying to fight hard for their issues, regardless of time.
What would you say to those naysayers that may say young politicians, for them, it's about the showmanship, but for you, you're saying it's about empathy, it's about remembering constituents, it's about service above self?
Yeah, well, I don't have constituents, but yeah, it's not about show. Anyone who knows me knows. In fact, one boy told me I'm the backstage legend because, as you know, working backstage, I was never really one to show off or to really push. If you check my social media, you hardly see anything of what I was doing in the past. So that's not me to show off or to show about. I'm just about getting work done, getting the job done.
But Shane, now that you've mentioned that, I'm curious to ask, at this time in a 2026 political era is very critical for politicians, be it younger politicians or older politicians, to show off a bit. We've seen it within the US, we see it across the UK as well, to have that digital presence and to show people, across the nation and even towards the regional scene as well, what is happening. So how are you balancing both of those elements, considering that some may call you the backstage legend?
Well, yeah, so because I have this position now, I have to do a lot more PR. We know that. So you'll see some more stuff going on my social media, posting almost weekly, and some of the achievements that we're doing. You saw the announcement last week from on the floor of the Senate. So yes, it is important to be present in the digital digital space. So it's something that I'm definitely working on, and we will get there. We're working on it.
In your maiden speech, we heard you giving some licks to some on the opposite side. How was that experience for you?
Yeah,
Many comments across social media, a lot of people congratulating you for a job well done and looking forward to your ascent as well.
Yeah, I would say it was nice. It was more someone was antagonizing and you're giving a little sharp response. But yeah, it was a great experience. I was nervous at first. Obviously, never did anything of that magnitude before. So a little nerves at first, but I settled in after a few moments of speaking.
A lot of pointers from your dad as well. What was some of the advice that Glenn would have shared as well? Well,
Um,
Ambassador Clark.
well, the main thing is what he told me is just to be confident, just to be yourself, and you know, just be yourself. Don't listen to anything. Put on your blinkers, and you know what you could do.
So I asked a question regarding some of the comments that would have been made from the opposition side. What's your view of government ministers? Barbados is that type of country where we work together, whether one person is on one side of the fence or the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
How important is this for you in terms of working with all parties going forward as a young minister?
Well, I mean, the precedent has been set. The Labour Party has won 3 consecutive clean sweeps at the electorate, and at each juncture, you've seen the Labour Party do whatever we can do to invite the other political parties to have a seat. And if you look at the current structure of the Senate, and we don't really have an opposition. We don't really have an opposition, so we have 2 independent senators who will be opposition voices in Senator Waters and Senator Goodrich. So I am aligned with the Labour Party's philosophy in terms of incorporating all Barbadians, regardless of not, they may not have won a seat, but a person still voted for them. So bringing everyone to the table, we've done it in the past. We've invited all parties to social partnership meetings and in general to the table. Last year, I remember we would have invited then the LP member Michael Lashley to sit on a panel to discuss the crime situation in Barbados. So we have always been embracing other political parties, and I'm aligned with that.
3 terms and undefeated. And we've also heard some hints at a 4th term, quite possibly, but time is short. The journey is long. How do you feel about this? What could possibly be the final term for this particular administration and the work that needs to be done within the next 4 to 5 years?
Well, that's a decision for the Barbadian public. But I know once you do good work, you will stay you should stay in office. So I wouldn't say if this will be the last or when will be the last or how long the Labour Party would be in government. But I think that our work speaks for itself. From 2018, we had the economic recovery, we had COVID, we got through COVID. And now we are really, well, we currently, there's a war going on globally, but you see that this government is hell bent on protecting Barbadians, whether it's at home, whether it's at the pump, or whether it's freighting stuff into the country. So once we do a good job, I am confident that we will stay in office.
What can we look forward to from you in terms of representation on the regional or international scene? I know there's a lot of work that would have to be done locally, but can you cast a vision of what might be happening externally as well?
Well, I leave that for the Minister of Foreign Affairs, but I mean, we still have to maintain our relationships with all. You know, we've heard from the Right Excellent Era Barrow to be friends of all and satellites of none. So I believe that we would maintain that structure.
Minister Archer, there are a lot of young persons looking up to you and some of the younger politicians as well. How are you seeking to create that balance in terms of people who may be concerned about political inertia or laziness and the new drive and ambition that you would have as a new politician?
Well, it's not the first time that you have a young politician. As we mentioned before the interview, we've had the Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister, the Honorable Mia Motley, and we've had former Prime Minister David Thompson, who were also very young members of Parliament and who also represented persons at the highest level. And the proof is in the pudding. They have worked and they intend to, not to mimic them, but to work along the same lines as they did to represent people and to maintain a level of integrity and a level of enthusiasm to continue to serve the people of Barbados.
For any young person watching the program this evening, what would you say in terms of sharing your vision for the Ministry of Youth and the Ministry of Culture as well? I've seen a lot of congratulatory remarks toward you upon this particular post, but what would you share for anybody watching?
Right, so as I said when I was sworn in, the main thing for me, for young people, whether it's in culture or wherever, is to create those pathways, to create those mechanisms where young people can see opportunities clearly. Oftentimes, opportunities do exist, but is channeling the persons, whether young, old, or wherever, into the correct direction of where opportunities do exist. So how do we do that? In my speech at Senate, I spoke to having a summit called Bridging the Gap. So we intend to have this summit very soon where we're going to quote unquote remove the red tape of government. Let young people understand how government works. Let them understand the plans of the government over the next few years, but also hearing what their ideas are to provide for a more sustainable government. But not only that, we also want to create a youth talent network. And what is that? So essentially, we want to create a portal where young persons can go and register their skills, whether that's carpentry, whatever. If you are have a higher level of education in terms of degrees and masters and so on, you register your interest into this portal. And what will this do? Say you're interested in culture, or you have a master degree in a culture related area, then you register your subjects and your area here. And when we need persons for a board, when we need a research paper, when we have jobs available, then they will be directly sent to the opportunities will present themselves clearly for young people. So I think that us creating those type of portals, those kind of pathways for the young people would go a long way.
Do you feel generally that young people are listened to enough in Barbados? You've mentioned the involvement of this particular portal, and we have a number of youth politicians, the Jamal Slocums, the Tara Trotmans, the Roshana Trends, and also yourself. So do you feel as if work still has to be done as minister within the Prime Minister's office with responsibility for youth?
Well, I can say that the government clearly is listening. You look at the government side in terms of our senators, and also in the lower house we have MP Trotman and MP Brathwaite, who are among the younger members of parliament.
Yeah.
So we can definitely say that government listens. I think that government will lead the way, but the private sector, society at large, also have to follow that trend in terms of putting young persons in positions and not just having them for a photo op.
What do you think it would take for young people to be taken seriously? What can youth do on their side? The government is listening, as you just alluded to, but what can young people do on their side to be taken serious enough in terms of their characteristics, in terms of how they show up, and also not only taking up space, but having something to say?
Yeah, I think the most important thing for young persons is to execute, whether it may seem small, it may seem minor, but you don't know who's watching or who's listening. So executing at the best of your abilities, and as we said earlier, me and you started this journey a few years ago.
Yeah.
When we were young persons coming into to government and so on. And I'm sure that the individual projects that we would have worked on, we tried our absolute best to execute to the best quality. And once you do that, your work will speak for itself. You don't have to say much.
I saw Senator Jamal Slocum put out a post about the fact that you both are CP boys.
Yes.
And that teachers will be proud of the boys coming from the north, from St. Peter.
Beacon on the hill.
The beacon on the hill. How has CP shaped your life from the days back then? You're 29 years old, young now. So how has CP shaped your future, shaped who you are today?
Well, the funny thing is that I always wanted to go to school. From primary school, I always wanted to go to Courage and Parry. But I did not only go to school at Courage and Parry, I also went to school at Grantley Adams. Courage and Parry, I would say that the foundation that I received not only at CP, but also at my other school, would have helped me to be the person who I am in terms of working with others, cooperating with others, and so on.
Were you involved in extracurricular activities, and how important do you think these extracurricular activities are for young people? We've heard the Minister of Educational Transformation, the Honorable Chad Blackman, state the importance of these various ventures throughout the school life. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, for sure. Extracurricular activities are very important. I was involved in cadets from first form.
Okay.
I was also involved in volleyball at Courage and Parry in first and second form, and football at Grantley Adams. So I think that having the opportunity to engage with extracurricular activities will teach you a number of life lessons, regardless of if it's discipline, teamwork, empathy. So extracurricular activities are very important for the development of our young people.
Your life is different to that of a number of other Barbadians, Shane. Having had your dad in your life as an active and well-respected politician as well, so you are politically aware. What do you think can be done in terms of our young people within your responsibilities in becoming more politically aware, more politically involved? There's been conversations about voter apathy for the February general elections, but what do you think can be done?
I think that we need to engage our young people a bit more. Civic awareness is key. So one of the programs that we will be pushing out will be to how do we get young persons to be more aware of what is going on in governments and governance, and to help once you could get persons to understand that, then I think that you will see a domino effect on voting and so on. Yeah.
Another question I want to ask is the importance of, you made an important announcement in terms of the return of the so-called Monarch competition. How important do you think that is for opportunities for young artists and also for the general economy?
Yeah, the Party Monarch, the return of the Party Monarch is extremely important, not only for the public, but as you said, for our young artists. If you look at the history of our bigger artists within the country, if they did not win, they were close to winning a Party Monarch. And if the conversation it currently is that the quality of our music is not there and so on and so forth, then competition will breed competitiveness and improve the quality of our music. So it is important for our young people to have these opportunities that those before us had. And I remember my first memory of the Party Monarch was at East Coast, and I think it was Timmy that had the song Bumper Catch a Fire.
Good days.
Yeah, them days. And I remember seeing the two fire trucks.
Yes,
go to water and somebody, and then in another performance, somebody jump out the sky from a helicopter with a parachute. And those type of experiences are, when I was telling my younger cousin the other day about this, she was like, no, that never happened in Barbados. So like also giving our young people that opportunity to see like, we can really be creative. There's so many opportunities for us to show our talent. So the Party Monarch would do just that, but not only the Party Monarch. There are a number of other initiatives that we will be bringing us on board soon.
Minister, we're going to pause for a short commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to continue this conversation surrounding the Party Monarch competition and crop over generally, coming from you as Minister with that responsibility.
Cool.
We will be back with more of this one-on-one with Minister within the Prime Minister's office with responsibility for youth and culture, Minister Shane Archer. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Hello, I'm Prince Bazawuli, Director of the Diaspora Radical Initiative. We promote cross-learning and education between Africa and the Caribbean based on our shared ancestry. We focus on the youth because they're the future leaders and change makers. Our innovative programming informs and empowers our audience. We focus on 4 pillars: innovation, culture, entrepreneurship, and sustainability. Our shared background provides a strategic infrastructure which, if bridged, could create opportunities in business, technology, and tourism, among others. The lack of consistent African programming in classrooms is also a gap which can be filled, as currently it is limited to 1 month in the year. You can get involved by donating to our year-long educational programs. You can also become a strategic partner for our annual Africa Fest event. You could volunteer for our events. We usually put our calls for that. You can attend our events or follow us on social media. Our handle is @diasporadical_org.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Danielle Reed-Melillo and I am a general physician. Today we're going to have a casual talk about STDs and STIs. An STD is a sexually transmitted disease and an STI is a sexually transmitted infection. An STI is an infection which is caused by having sexual contact with an infected person. When symptoms develop, it is then termed an STD. All STDs are treatable, but only some are curable. Everyone that has sexual intercourse is at risk. Get your partner or partners tested before every new sexual relationship and use protection.
Welcome back to this edition of One on One. We're having a conversation with a new minister within the Prime Minister's office with responsibility for youth and culture, Mr. Shane Archer. Minister Archer, we promised our viewers to continue this conversation surrounding your announcement of the Party Monarch competition. What faith can younger artists have, and this is at you, in terms of the budget in train to support them and their ventures?
Well, notwithstanding the Party Monarch, there's also the Junior Monarch. That is really a developmental arm of the National Cultural Foundation. So you'll see many of our younger artists, and the one that really stands out for me now is Grateful Cole, who would have participated in the Junior Monarch competition. So I think that our young people do have the infrastructure in place for them to excel in their various roles, and culture and crop over in general is not only about the artists, it's also about the dancers, the choreographers, the makeup artists, everyone it involves so many different moving parts that many people would get a piece of the pie.
Some of the newer artists have been complaints about, the artistry being considered a political space, some artists being recognized more than others. What would you say in terms of the opportunities and importance of alignment and networking for any of the younger artists watching the program this evening?
Yeah, networking is important for anybody, regardless if you're an artist, a lawyer, a doctor, whatever it is, you have to network. And even what we were speaking about previously in terms of presenting yourself in that digital space in a uniform way that persons can see you. So yeah, that's it.
But what do you think some artists aren't taken serious enough?
I don't think that some artists aren't taken serious enough. I think that once you present good work and you present good on good quality, you will be heard. Yes, some persons may not have the capital up front to do that, but there are grants that the National Cultural Foundation has that you can go to help improve if you have a studio, if you want to purchase some stuff for your studio, there are grants and so on that are available. In terms of exposure, that is something that I think that you have to look at yourself and look at PR properly. The radio has been phenomenal. You need to utilize younger artists. If there's anything that you could suggest to them, the radio works wonders. Getting yourself onto radio stations, and most times radio stations would accept younger people because they need content as well. So I don't think that younger persons are not taken serious. I think that first and foremost, yes, we need to take ourselves seriously, but also look at the opportunities that exist within the cultural hemisphere.
Considering what you just said, Minister, men like Master T, we have the Brutal Crankstars, we have Crime Sun at one point. What role can they play in terms of music plays an important role in terms of the effect on the psyche? Barbados, as you would know and are aware of, are concerns regarding youth involvement in crime. So what's your word to these type of very popular artists in terms of the impact that they may have on the psyche of young men?
Well, yeah, there's no doubt that music will have an impact on persons, but and the Bajan dancehall scene is growing. I mean, dancehall in general within the region. You see Trinidad, you see St. Kitts, you see St. Lucia as well, having a rise in the amount of dancehall artists, and I am a dancehall fan myself. But at the same token, we need to be cognizant of the fact that there are persons that will take your lyrics absolutely seriously. So I would urge artists to be a little cautious of it, because we know what will sell, but also you need to look at the longevity of your career, what you want to be known for. And one of the artists, and Master T is doing brilliantly. Even right now he's #1 on the Apple charts in Trinidad. So clearly his music is resonating with the youth. But there's also a younger artist, Doje, who is
Yeah.
also from St. George, as I am. And I really appreciate, and this is not to undermine anyone else,
Not
but
to slay anybody.
I really appreciate Doje's music because he doesn't even have one single curse word in his songs. If you go back and check it, he doesn't sing with any curse words. So they so he has clearly shown that he can be on the charts with and singing good music as well.
In terms of the conversation of Master T, the Dojes, how important do you think it is in terms of how they've marketed and branded themselves? What do you think has set them apart to make it, considering limited resources, Master T being a community guy, a community boy? What about their marketing do you think has aided them in climbing the charts and the ladder?
I think the most important thing that Master T has done, and I don't want to speak for him, but he took himself seriously. He thought that he would have been a star from he started on Jordan English, because let's speak to Jordan English as well. If you believe in yourself, nobody can stop you really and truly. You just have to believe in yourself and go back to what we said earlier, execution. Put out your best quality work. Execute to the best of your abilities, and you will make it.
What are those elements? You've mentioned taking yourself seriously, or taking yourself serious rather. What does that look like, and what should that look like for young politicians, those young people within the corporate space, young artists? What are some of those elements that should be included in terms of having that audacity of hope and that vision for self?
Well, taking yourself seriously is that if your end goal is whatever is your end goal, you have to work towards it. So waking up every day and pushing towards that. Waking up every day and thinking to yourself, well, I will make it. Waking up every day and despite what anybody else may say, you still put on your blinkers and you go forward and you go towards your goal. It's as simple as that. You just have to be focused on whatever it is that you're going. If you have a goal, if you have a goal that you are serious about, work towards it. Wake up every day and one day at a time, and you will make it.
You've grown from being a show promoter and a young businessman in the late teens, early 20s. How would you say you've changed in terms of how you approach life, how you approach business, public office, from then in your late teens, early 20s up until now as you approach the 30s?
I would say patience is something that I've learned over the last few years. When I first started my businesses and so on, in my early 20s, you're eager and you want everything urgent and so on and so forth. But the most important lesson that I've learned is patience and having faith.
And who are some of those mentors or the characteristics of some of the mentors that you look up to that have helped you on this journey up until this point?
Well, my dad, obviously, some of the show producers that I've worked with in the past, Ray's Caribbean Music Festival and so on, have all played a part in my life. Whether it's through empathy, whether it's through patience, whether it's through learning the art of listening to people to really hear and listening without speaking and listening first, are some of the most important things that I have learned.
Other than your dad, in terms of considering what you just said, what was support like from other members of your family?
Yeah, so my mom, she's always there. She's always there with me despite whatever. My sisters are a very strong support system, and my brothers, they're always there to tell me when to come back, how to operate, and so on. So I've always had a very strong support system, and also my aunts. I've been fortunate to have several aunts, but all of them who do not necessarily have children. So I became more or less their favorite.
Yeah.
Me and my sister, and some of my other cousins as well. So I've been fortunate to have a very strong support system, regardless of if it's my mother, my sister, or my aunts behind me, and believing in anything that I put myself to. I remember when I was younger, I was heavily involved in cycling before I broke my knee. And my mom and sister would be at every race, despite how important it was or not. So those are some important things that you need to have a strong support system.
Speak also to the importance of community.
Yeah.
Political community, community from family, community from school. You've You've spoken to several communities within your personal ecosystem that have helped you to ascend to where you are now. So speak to the importance of being involved in community. Oftentimes, through a lot of the music that we listen to from younger artists, we may hear, don't trust bad mind or don't trust people generally. But you have that ecosystem of community of people that you trust and confidants as well.
Yeah, everybody should have somebody that they trust. I didn't say to trust everybody because it would be foolish. But at the same time, community is important, whether it's at home, at school. And the one thing that I grew up in a Barbados where community was at the forefront of everybody's minds. Whether it's a church fair, whether it's a school fete, whatever it was, persons would come out and help because that's what decent people did. And I'm not saying that we don't have decent people right now, but there needs to be a bridge between the youth and the older people. The old people gotta be able to tell the young people to come back though, or not. We are going to lose generations, not a generation. When you see youngsters on the block gambling or on the road the corner, stop them. Different things like that. When they grew up in Barbados, the older people really will hold your hand and help you through life. So community is important from that perspective, not only from at school, but your home environs are very important. People say, the young people this and the young people that, the young people are married, the young people they want to hear nothing. But you can't lose them. If we lose them, we're losing ourselves. We're losing our identity. We're a young republic. We know have ways to go in the world. So if we do not have that bridging of the gap and that community service, and yes, you can't trust everybody. You shouldn't trust everybody. But you need to have persons within your life, whether that's your parents, whether that's a family member, a friend, a community mentor, a schoolmate, or a teacher at school, whoever, church, and the church must really and truly become more important into the lives of our young Barbadians. I had to go Sunday school every Sunday.
Whether you like it or
Whether I
not.
like it or not, I had to go Sunday school. So parenting also is important, and instilling that discipline into our young people. I think those are some elements that we need to, as I said when it started, tradition and history matters, and we need to preserve certain elements of that.
You played an important role, now that you made mention of the importance of community in We Gathering last year. And I know you would have been involved in that go-karting competition that we had. That did so well. That was a highlight of We Gathering last year. How important was it for you to seek out those persons within community, now that we're on the topic of community, and allowing those elements of Bajan tradition to shine through?
Yeah, that event was a really good event, and it gave me a few gray hairs to actually have it pulled up. And I really have to thank the current MP for St. George North, who really believed in the vision, and the Prime Minister as well, when they brought the idea to them. When you hear persons coming down on a hill on go-karts, it's not something that anybody would just say, okay, go ahead and do. So it had a lot of holes and loopholes you had to jump through to really make it happen. But the community at large in St. George, that's a tradition. Almost every Sunday, the guys do it. Everyone in every corner of St. George knows about the karting, and even making them. Last week, Friday, we had a session at the Ellerton Community Center where I was sitting next to a youngster. He told me that he just sold 2 go-karts. So it's not just about the racing, it's about how you could create an economy within the community for them to showcase what it is that you're doing. You saw the thousands of people that came out, and not only in St. George, the guys have been going all over the country to showcase what it is that they're doing. Even on Emancipation Day last year, they did have a similar execution to what we had in St. George, but they were coming off of the hill over there by Bassa. So there is an appetite for it, and just giving those younger person, they have some older people involved in it too, that opportunity to showcase the Barbadians. But hey, this is what we like to do. This is what St. George is known for. This is what we do on Sundays. We want to have other persons participate, because it's not just about the racing, it's about that feeling of unity, that feeling of togetherness. And we saw the result. As you said, it was one of the best events that We Gathering had. And why? It wasn't the best because I did it or who was involved. It was the best because the community at large came together. And you saw persons from all over St. George come up, people that don't like the one other people come out and say, yo, this is something that's big. This is something that we really want to see. So those type of events, those that bring together persons to showcase unity are very important.
So in terms of the go-karting, Minister, there have been a revival of pride in terms of the Bajan tangible culture. What do you say to those older folks that may be saying we're losing ourselves in terms of our approach to band leading during the Crop Over Festival, the fact that we need to have a revival of Bajan culture? I'm sure some would also admit that since the Regathering festivities, there's been this reemergence and pride in terms of Bajan culture as well.
Yeah, so
And what is unique to us, sorry.
Yeah, that's exactly what Regathering was intended to do, to showcase to not only to Barbadians, but to the wider region and the world that we do have a culture, we do have things that are indigenous to Barbados, and all that we really and truly need to do is provide those opportunities for the community persons to show off and to showcase what Barbados has to offer. From St. Lucie to St. Philip, we would have seen various type of activities. We had a cookout in St. John, where you saw all type of different ways to do sauce that I didn't even know before. So there are things that are synonymous to Barbadians, but more importantly, we just need to showcase them and to really have the younger persons involved in it, because if we don't include the young people, then the tradition will die.
Minister, we're going to pause for another short commercial break, but when we come back, we want to touch on the future of youth and culture in Barbados, the importance of the orange economy, and the important role that you're playing as well. We'll be right back with more of this one-on-one. Please stay with us.
My name is Lisa Fenty, and I'm the Managing Director of the Walkers Institute for Regenerative Research, Education and Design. Our nonprofit Wired uses nature-based solutions to convert degraded landscapes into thriving ecosystems. And our primary goal has been to steward the regeneration of Walker's Sand Quarry into the Walker's Reserve. We've been able to create habitats, to increase biodiversity, and to sequester carbon. And those are key elements towards climate resilience and in turn to increasing food security. We have many projects happening on site, but one of our key programs is our One Tree for Every Bajan project, where we're aiming to plant 285,000 trees to contribute towards the national goal of 1 million trees by 2030.
Hello, my name is Micah Joseph, and I am Tour Manager and Project Officer with Wired. Walker's Reserve is located on the east coast of Barbados within the Scotland District in the parish of St. Andrew. It is part of the national parks. There are various ways in which you can explore the reserve. We have many experiences including nature walks, hikes, driving tours, bird and bee experiences, and special events.
We encourage both individuals and organizations to partner with us and donate towards Bajan resilience.
You can find us on Instagram or Facebook, or you can also search our website at www.wired.org.
Hi, my name is Barbara Daniel Goddard. I'm the Chair and Councillor of Advocates Against Domestic Abuse, and we are known as ADA. ADA is a registered charity, number 1397. ADA provides support to women and men who are victims or survivors of domestic abuse and violence. Annually, ADA gets involved with a number of events: 16 Days of Activism, International Women's Day, and Domestic Awareness Month. ADA is always looking for volunteers, and some of the skills that we would like would be persons with fundraising knowledge, marketing, and legal. Visit our website, ada.bb, and you can find all of our social media handles. You can contact us via our helpline if you are a victim or a survivor of domestic violence or abuse.
Welcome back to this edition of One-on-One. we promised you, our viewers, to have a conversation with our minister regarding the future of the youth in Barbados, in the Barbadian context, and conversations surrounding culture as well. Minister, one of the questions that I wanted to ask, I'm curious to ask about, in terms of your faith, where young people are concerned in Barbados as we head into our 60th anniversary of independence.
Yeah, in terms of the faith, my faith in young persons, I'm a young person myself, and I see how many young persons they have that are involved in various activities, whether they own clothing stores, whether they own their own construction companies, whether they own whatever, or not even withstanding owning. There are plenty of young persons that are in important spaces that can help Barbados to grow. So I have plenty of faith in our younger generation. The one thing that I would say is that once we keep on creating those opportunities and pathways, then we will see how bright and how the amount of quality that our young people really have. We just need to have belief in them. It's not only faith from myself, but it's faith from all sectors of society, the church, the private sector, the government. Everybody has to come, the communities has to come together and realize that if we don't hold the young people hand, or if we don't have faith in our young people, as I said, our tradition and our history will just go away.
Do you see the importance of church still in a modern Barbados?
Yeah, of course, the church has an important role to play. Only a few weeks ago, we launched I was there to launch a youth program at Power in the Blood Church in Byron Hall. So I think that the church has a major role to play. The church teaches you discipline. The church teaches you faith, how to work together with persons. So I believe that we need to have more young persons involved in church activities. When I was growing up in church, we had so many young people. VBS, every church had a vacation Bible school. So we need to have more young persons involved into this. But it's not only that, it's the parents have to ensure that the young persons are involved in church. I could not tell my mother that I was not going to church. My aunt was actually church secretary, so I had no choice but to go to church.
What do you say to some persons within the secular space who may say that church actually takes away from young people finding opportunities?
I don't think so, but you could go to church and still have opportunities. You can go to church and still do your thing, but the most important thing is having that background, having that strength, having that backbone, of the church, and knowing that your church is behind you, knowing that you have somewhere that you could go, and when you're feeling down or when you feel that you've lost faith, that you can go to a pastor, you can go to a senior person within the church and have a conversation with them, I think is very important.
Mm-hmm. On the whole topic of faith and church, do you feel as if this particular role is part of your greater purpose?
Well, yeah, it's important right now for as you see, there are plenty of situations where our young men in particular well, I don't think that they're going wayward, but I'm just saying what society is speaking of. So I think that having someone that has a background in these type of activities is important for us in terms of translating that to our younger generation and having them realize that church is cool, is somewhere that we could go, is not something untoward. It's not gonna look like a nerd. You're not gonna look like if you're weird if you go to church. Like, church is cool. Having a relationship with the church is even cooler. So I think that we need to ensure that young people and young men in particular see the benefits of going to church, and it's not just about just sitting down listening to long ceremonies and so on, long preachers, but it's about meeting people, is about having a relationship with God, having a relationship with community. So the church definitely is important, and I think that this role can, if anyone wants to take a leaf from my book, church is important.
Mm-hmm. You're concerned about our young men locally, and what role do you think that culture can play, or being involved within the entrepreneurial space, the business space, the orange economy, the gig economy can help in terms of helping our young men? But do you have any greater concerns toward our young youth?
A lot of our young men are involved in the orange economy, whether it's and we created sector. When you look at even events, as I was speaking about before, they're bartenders, they're young carpenters, they're young artists. So there is a space for them, and I believe, back to the first question, not really, I wouldn't say that I'm deeply concerned. It is concerning about the way that our young people, our young men in particular, behave. But I think that it is something that we can repeal. It is something that we can, once we hold the hands of our young men in particular, and show them that their life is not just about the violence. Life is not just about sitting down on a block. I mean, those things are okay. If you sit on a block, you lying, whatever, that's cool. But at the same token, you need to get a skill. You need to go to school. You need to have a relationship with God. You need to help the old lady down the road. You need to go to church. You need to be civically aware. All of these things are important in becoming a man. So how the culture of our young men in particular has to change. So how do we do that? It is about having having different programs through the community centers, going into schools, going to meet young people where they are at. Whether people go to the block and talk to people too. We can't just dismiss the block men because they're exactly that. We could go to the blocks and speak to people, show them the opportunities that government has to offer for them and society at large.
Now that you made mention of reaching these men where they're at, what are some of the programs that you would have in place right now for our young men specifically?
Well, the programs in place right now in my ministry in particular is Project Dawn, which the director of Project Dawn is phenomenal. He told me he visited over 200 blocks in Barbados already. I didn't even know they had so many blocks, but it's just testament to the amount of groundwork that they have been doing already before I even came to the Division of Youth Affairs. So Project Dawn is one of the most important projects that we have for our young people. Where this is a project where if you want to go to Polytechnic to learn a skill, we will provide the opportunity for you to do so. You are interested in landscaping, but you don't have a weed whacker or more or whatever, we can help you to facilitate these type of opportunities. But more importantly, the government has introduced the Trust Loan Fund since 2018 when we came to office. So that is an avenue that I would encourage all young persons who are interested in anything entrepreneurial. You can literally get $5,000 startup cash, and that could go a long way. I benefited from it in 2018 or 2019 or so. I benefited from the first $5,000 that helped me to buy power washers. So I think that the Trust Loan Fund is important for our young persons. I recently heard that the government is increasing the threshold from $10,000 to $20,000, which is important for any person starting a business to having that capital.
Would you say that Barbados, you've benefited from the Trust Loan Fund, but generally speaking, for young persons watching one-on-one this evening, would you say that Barbados is one of those safe spaces to start from ground zero and elevate in life? What would you say to any young person watching the program who may say, well, he knows many people, it's about networking, it's about this, it's about that, but what would you say in terms of encouraging young people to know that, in terms of having faith, knowing that they can make it from maybe coming from a marginalized community or disenfranchised family?
Yeah, anywhere in the world, starting a business is difficult, but you need to be unique in whatever it is you're doing. If everybody does the same thing, then you will get nowhere. There are certain markets that, yes, the appetite is there for having a lot more persons enter that. For example, farming and so on, you can never have enough persons entering to do farming or whatever. But there are other markets that I would encourage persons to think outside the box. And when you come up and when you learn and you showcase whatever it is that you have to offer and is unique, I'm sure that your product would go a long way. But as you said before, networking is important. You may come from Rihanna came from in Goodland, but where she is today. So I mean, where you come from is not really important, but it's where you want to go and how you channel yourself and how you work towards that goal.
And for those who've made it from Barbados or other parts of the Caribbean and even on the international scene, it's those persons who pursued and chose entrepreneurship with a valor, with a faith. What's your advice to young people in terms of youth entrepreneurship. You're Minister of Youth. You're also Minister of Culture, and the possibilities in Barbados as well.
Well, yeah, true. And the possibilities in Barbados for young entrepreneurs are great, in my opinion. You just need to know, as I said, to create those, highlight where the opportunities are for younger persons. As you were speaking before, there's Bonfire that shows all of governments, or the majority of governments, capital works projects and other projects as well on Bonfire. So showing our people where to get these opportunities will become very important as well.
And do you feel as if entrepreneurship should be added to the school curriculum?
Well, yeah, I think it should be. I'm not the Minister of Education, but I think that entrepreneurs, and we have a lot of young entrepreneurs. I mean, even when they went to school, they had a lot of persons would sell those sweeties, and I know of a youngster now who's selling a lot of things at school, and there's a young entrepreneur in St. Peter. She has a candy store. So as I said, the opportunities in Barbados are great. You just have to find that little niche and work yourself towards it.
What can we expect from you in terms of your greater vision as Minister of Youth and Culture?
Well, so more or less to create those pathways and opportunities, regardless of if it's for our creatives, or our technical persons, or even our higher educated persons with degrees and so on. But to create those opportunities for our people so that we can really become the best Barbados that we can be, regardless of where you come from, regardless of your gender, regardless of who your parents are. I think creating those opportunities for our people is very important to me.
And in terms of the tourist dollars not only reaching the big boys, as some may put it, but also the small craft vendors, the low person on the street. How can we guarantee for our young people who may be involved within the cultural sector that some of these tourist dollars would also be reaching them?
Yeah, so this is why it's important for us to have events, for us to have activity going on, because the event is not only about the artist. When you have a major event, the taxi operator gonna make money, the coconut vendor gonna make money, obviously the tourists coming in. So look at Cropover, for example. All of these different sectors will make a lot of money once we put on these events. So regardless of if it's Cropover Festival, regardless of if it's Carrie Festa, regardless if it's Regathering, those tourist dollars are money in general flowing in the economy. Once we have events, and once we have an event, doesn't have to be a lot of music and so on. There are various types of events, as we saw with Carrie Festa. There are food events, there are art events. Whatever it is how we can really trickle down to the small man. In the Prime Minister's Cup, for example, we had so many different vendors that we had more vendors than we had games. So what we had to do is to give a certain amount of vendor the opportunity to vend at each crown, so that once we have activity and events, the Prime Minister's Cup is activity, is a major sporting event. So that once we have and we keep on creating these opportunities for our people, the money will trickle down. And to use the Prime Minister's Cup again, from carpenters to electrical technicians, to the taxi operators, to everybody, the sound guy, the young people that are doing the cameras. So once we have and we keep on creating opportunities for our people, the money will trickle down.
There have been consistent concerns in terms of what's happening on the international scene with President Trump, what's happening with President Benjamin Netanyahu, and what's happening in Iraq. That could have ripple effects for Barbados. So what's the general hope for our economy from where you sit as Minister within Prime Minister's office with responsibility for youth and culture?
Yeah, well, the main impact that Barbados would have is obviously the cost of fuel and getting stuff to Barbados. So that's why it's important for what the government just did in the budget, with putting a cap onto our light bills, as I said before, and letting Barbadans maintain a quality of life as long as we can do it. But if we're being real, we have to look at various things of how we will survive as a society now.
All right. Minister Archer, it was a pleasure having this conversation with you.
Thank you.
A lot of insight that you've shared within your ministry, within culture and youth, and most certainly wishing you all the best as one of our newest ministers.
Thank you.
You've just heard directly from Senator Shane Archer, Minister within the Prime Minister's office with responsibility for youth and culture. On behalf of my producer, I'm Miss Ron Robinson. Until next time.